Welcome to this episode of Reprint. This is the podcast at TTN where we go over some of the stories that were printed in this week's edition. My name is Ariana Droz. I'm the podcast editor here at TTN, and today I'll be sitting with the Co-News Editor Connor Pugh to talk about his piece about the strategic plan for Temple University to roll out AI for administrative and possibly educational purposes. I will also be chatting with our features editor Madelynne Ferro, who wrote a piece about tattoo culture at Temple U. So the piece that you wrote for this print was about a strategic plan to roll out AI for administrative and possibly educational purposes at TU. Do you want to summarize a little bit about what you wrote?
Yeah. So as part of Temple's strategic plan, which was approved by the Board of Trustees January 28th, they announced they were looking into ways to utilize artificial intelligence technology for administrational operations, and this is in the context of ongoing budget issues that Temple has been having, which leads to rising tuition rates and stuff like that, and then also looking into how AI can be used for various other departments as well, but mostly it's focused on administrational operations. And so they developed a task force, which is currently looking into that, and so far they've conducted some surveys of different schools across campus about how they use AI technology, and I think they're going to work from there and figure it out. So it's like very early stages, but that's what I was reporting on, just what we may expect, what this actually means, what this could mean, and the current state Temple is in regards to its approach to AI technology.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know about what made you want to write about this. Like, how did you catch wind of it? And yeah.
Yeah. So I did a lot of reporting earlier on the strategic plan. I published an overview of the whole thing in a long form article a few weeks ago. And then I've done other articles about the specific focuses on student success. And the AI, I think, is just another part of this. I thought it was an interesting, interesting development as part of this latest strategic plan, because obviously in 2014, you didn't see any AI technology because it just wasn't a thing like it is now. And this is a new thing that Temple has to deal with and approach in its own uniquely Temple way, as they would say. So I thought it was an interesting thing to write about in regards to the strategic plan and the millions of other initiatives it has.
Yeah. So the plan is called Forward with Purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you tell me about who you were able to talk to and what they had to say about the student success aspect of phasing in AI?
I talked to, for the AI story, I talked to a professor at the Bio Life Sciences building, and he gave me some good context for what AI technology at universities are. And then I also talked to some people at the Center for the Advancement of Teaching, which is a faculty-focused resource department for Temple University. And a few years ago, I think, they published a faculty guide to AI in regards to teaching in classrooms, and they communicate a lot of stuff about that to faculty, and so they're important mediary to that. And then I also talked to the interim provost, David Boardman, about what the AI could mean. And he told me basically that they're in the very early stages of looking into how AI could be used for administrational operations, and then also addressing concerns about if this AI in administration operations could impact people's jobs or anything. And they said it won't necessarily do that.
Were you able to get any specifics, what kinds of roles the AI will be taking over? I saw there might be something about like admissions, like chatbot kind of thing?
Yeah, those are different departments. I think for administration operation, it's still very vague, unfortunately. But what I was seeing was mostly like basically covering using AI for its main purpose of like um, eliminating redundancy um, and covering a lot of ground that is, I guess, tedious for humans. And they could put that into some of the more nitty gritty operational aspects of Temple University, which I believe is already automated to certain extents, depending on the department. And I think they want to use AI to supplement that. But that's obviously speculation and whatnot. Again, it's in the very early stages, and they're looking to see further what they can do.
For sure. Were you able to get like specifics about how soon they're looking to start implementing?
Not necessarily for the AI specifically, but for a lot of these strategic plan initiatives, we may see further developments in even the next year or next few years. The strategic plan has a broader goal of accomplishing a lot of its purported initiatives by 2034, which is Temple's 150th anniversary, I'm pretty sure. And that's kind of the vague deadline that Forward with Purpose has. So I think even before that, I think we might see some further developments for how AI will use. And I think going in hand in hand with some of the budget issues that Temple is experiencing, they're planning on rolling out a new budget model June of this year. So we may see how AI could be incorporated into that, if at all.
Okay, so I did have a question about that too, now that you mention it. I saw a lot in like the piece about the people who you were interviewing talking about like we're needing to focus funding towards like being able to support the AI that might be implemented onto campus. So whether that be through like a third party kind of thing or like having our own systems, like servers for the AI. So I mean, have you heard anything or like anyone that you talked to, like were they able to talk about like the restructuring of the budget to fund that?
Yeah, they weren't really talking about that. Again, early stages. This is just like, I guess I wrote that as more of an setting the stage for what needs to be done if Temple University wanted to go further in with these AI initiatives. I think Temple's looking into that on their own respects. And in regards to funding, I think their hope is, this new budget model may open up new avenues for revenue optimization, I guess. And that could mean a bunch of things, including investment in AI technology.
Yeah. Were there anything that you found talking to anyone, or just like anything that you wanted to add that maybe you didn't get to put in print or talk about yet?
Yeah, to maybe give my own perspective a bit, I thought it was interesting, a lot of the people I talked to, how forward with AI they were. Like, I remember this time a few years ago, there would have been like outright aversion to AI technology. I saw from a lot of teachers and administrators and stuff like that. But I think it was interesting in my reporting that I'm seeing how, I guess, open to the potentials of AI technology that these new technology could create, and for the university, and to improve its operations and help students, like with providing some sort of chat GPT or something like that to them. Me personally, I'm a little skeptical, but I guess we'll see. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, like how people are kind of accepting it more.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah, that's very how would you, like, how long ago do you think that was that you were noticing that there was an aversion versus, like, now?
Well, I remember when I was still in high school.
Yeah.
Now Temple has basically kind of a blanket policy of it's up to the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And one, obviously it's college versus high school, but like even then, I think it's leaving the door open is what I would say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for, like, the, I guess, transition or just, like, the change in attitudes about it overall.
It's definitely like a fundamental aspect of how we all operate now,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like it or not. So it's interesting seeing established institutions like Temple University, which again, approaching its 150th year anniversary, is like approaching and adapting to these changes.
For sure.
And that's what a lot of the people, especially the people I was talking to at the CAT, was talking about. It's just like not in the best interest of students and staff to ignore AI technology, even if someone personally disagrees with it, because AI is just in people's professional lives, their future beyond college. It's just an ingrained aspect.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like a too far gone kind of thing, yeah. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. So this week for this print, you wrote the tattoo feature, which as someone who loves tattoos and has many myself, I obviously wanted to come and talk about it. So yeah, just like tell me about how this story came about and like what you're talking about in this story.
Yeah, so if you want to go back to like the way beginning, the pitch idea actually came from our lovely editor-in-chief, Sydney, because she has a bunch of tattoos and she got a tattoo, I think, from, it wasn't in a dorm, I think, but it was like a student artist. And she was like, oh, what if you did something on tattoos? And I was like, yeah, Temple actually has a huge culture of dorm room tattooing. And that's always something where you're like, I'm sure there's some sort of certification you need for tattooing. I couldn't tell you exactly what, but I'm sure there's some sort of health code like violation. So yeah, I worked on it with this awesome freelancer, Anthony. He did a really, really great job. He interviewed two of the voices that we have in the story, and I interviewed one. And we basically we got a really, really great spread. We talked to a really popular dorm room tattooer at Eastern University. He tattoos out of his dorm. And I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of like what his certification looks like, but you can kind of assume it's in a dorm, so it's enough said. And then we talked to a professional tattooer, Derek Del Toro at Cadillac Tattoo, which is in Germantown, and kind of talked to him. He very much had a traditional apprenticeship, kind of like apprenticeship kind of traditional way of getting into tattooing. And then I talked to Jack Fisher, who actually is a Temple alum. He went to Tyler. He was a graphic design major, and it's really interesting. He's like a multimedia artist. He's a really cool dude, and his style of tattooing is that like cyber syllogism, which is also James Wright, who is the dorm tattooer. They both kind of work in that space, that style. But specifically for Fisher, his is very much like graphic design, and I'm making that into a tattoo. He's a really, really cool style. Our photos from this story are awesome.
Yeah, they looked really cool.
They're great. Shout out Gallo and a freelancer, Lauren. Like, amazing, amazing photos. And yeah, I was just kind of talking about, you have three people who kind of are in different sides of the aisle or the subculture that is Philly tattooing. And just kind of all of their perspectives on, like, I think Fisher described it to the best, and I couldn't really include this in the article, but he described Philly tattoo artists as like a frat. He was like, when you when you want to become a tattoo artist, like there's a hazing process.
Absolutely. With the apprenticeship. And
Yes.
all that, yeah.
Like you kind of need to be a grunt for a little bit and then work your way up.
Yeah.
So when you have people who come into it not through that route, he said, you know, imagine you're in a fraternity and you went through all this bullshit and then some new guy comes in and didn't go through that. That's kind of the mentality. And he also made a great point, which is just any Philly subculture is going to be, like, exclusionary. We're Philadelphia. Like, there's going to be a little bit of, like, drama, a little bit of toxicity. And, yeah, I thought that was really – it was just really interesting to hear kind of what they all said and how accessibility to tools and general, you know, there you can always include the economic climate, but truthfully, it's like we're college kids. We don't want to pay a lot of money for anything, whether that's like now or 9 years ago. So I think really it's like the accessibility to tools through Amazon, through that kind of stuff. You just have people who 10, 20, 30 years ago would never be able to access tattooing. And then we didn't write it explicitly, but I think you can kind of infer from the article there's definitely a new culture that's like coming about that's in very different it's in direct conflict with, I think, like the very traditional ways.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was awesome. Everybody was really cool, and it was really unique.
I love this piece. No, you're fine. I love this piece because, like, this is such a controversial thing right now, like, online in the tattoo industry of just, like, okay, you think you can just, like, pick up an Amazon tattoo machine and, like, start tattooing when quite literally you can.
You kind of can.
And you can get, you know, when you're consistent and you practice with it, like, that's something you can get better at. But, yeah, like, there is kind of, like, this, you know, like, you need to go through the apprenticeship because there are things that you get out of it that you could never, like, learn being a self-taught artist. And I'm just really interested to hear, like, if you guys were able to talk about that with Derek Del Toro, the one who did go through an apprenticeship process and now works at a shop in, like, Germantown, Mount Airy area. Like, how long has he been tattooing, and did he have anything to say about, like, dorm room tattoo artists? Like,
yeah, so Anthony did interview him, so I was only kind of, like, reading the interview. But I thought it was really interesting. So he didn't immediately get into tattooing. He actually served in the military, and then, you know, always loved tattooing, though, from, like, a young age. He grew up, like, very strict. So I think it was kind of one of those things where it probably wasn't available to him as a path until he had kind of, like, already done something else. So he went through the military. After he got, you know, released, he started an apprenticeship, like, almost immediately after, and he was working a full-time job as a landscaper, as most apprentices have to do, because you're not really getting paid. He said that if he was getting paid, it was only a tip. And if he did a bad job, he wasn't getting paid. So, yeah, his perspective on it, I think, if we're kind of using this, like, frat metaphor, once you're hazed, like, you did the work, so you're not really going to go, you know what, like, that other guy cannot do it. Like, he doesn't, you know, like, he doesn't have to work super long hours. He doesn't have to work 2 jobs. He doesn't have to sweep up the shop like I did. That's not really going to fly. But honestly, the point that I thought was, like, more interesting was, when you buy, like, a piece of machinery from China or whatever, like, he was like, these kids, like, these people who aren't doing apprenticeships, like, they're not learning enough about the machinery, which is really important for being able to fix it, just kind of, like, knowing the ins and outs of how something works.
Yeah.
And that, I think, like, having that limited view, one of his quotes was like, what are you going to do, call China, like, when your machine breaks? Like, it was kind of interesting. I think it goes into, like, a larger consumerism thing, which is, like, being detached from a product. And this is a whole different rabbit hole, but if you aren't able to fix things, like, things are just breaking. And then it's what? You buy something new. Like, and that is kind of the climate that we're in today with machinery. But as a tattoo artist, you know, everything is just it's high stakes. You're tattooing people. You're dealing with blood. You're dealing with possibly injuring people. So if you don't have, a lot of knowledge about your machinery, like, you could possibly be harming somebody at the worst. And at the best, you have to buy new shit every single time, something breaks. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. Was there anything that, like, surprised you when you were interviewing or writing the piece?
Yeah, so I talked to Fisher, so I think I'm going to speak from that interview. He really had, like, a business mindset.
He's
but
solo, right? Is
yeah.
he working out of a shop?
So he works out of his own studio.
Yeah.
And that I think he's a great bridge kind of between, like the two sides, because, in today's economic climate, we love that. I love that little phrase. So, like, nobody's going to say that, like, they don't want to make money. And that part of being an apprentice, that kind of, I think, leads into a bigger conversation that we've been having for a couple of years now about unpaid internships and things like that. You can kind of look at an apprenticeship that way. Like that, yeah. So Fisher then went on to the further conversation, which you really don't think about, I think, as like a client or just kind of as a regular person, which is, so you are apprentice in a shop, you usually then become an artist in that shop, and you don't own the shop. So a portion of your tattoo money, like, doesn't go to you. It goes to the shop. It goes to the owner, whatever. Obviously that varies business by business. You don't want to hammer anybody down. But for him, like, after he was certified, he just immediately went into, I have my own shop. And because of that, the kind of economics and artistic things kind of go hand in hand here. He has the ability to kind of charge the prices that he wants and do what he wants to do. For him, his work is insane. We're looking at a picture of it right now. His work is insane. Like, the dude is talented. Not more or less than the other people we talked to, but specifically, like, his style, it's just, I was looking at the pieces and I was just like, how do you do that on, like, ink and in skin? Like, it's just, oh my gosh, you're just, like, mind blown. But yeah, I think it was just, like, surprising because he's so artistic and so talented, and he also had a really, really good mind for being, like, at the end of the day, this is your livelihood. So he loves the art of it, but there's an economic and business side to tattooing.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you say, okay, like, this apprenticeship stuff, working for a parlor that you don't own, that might be how people did things. But if I can make more money tattooing in my dorm, like, if I can, not more money necessarily, but if I can make money, period, Wright tattooed, like, 200 people last year. The guy makes money. Like, he,
That's the dorm artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you think about it like that, it's like, he might not have time for the apprenticeship, blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't mean it's moot. Like, but that I think was just a surprising part. I think I came into the article thinking this was going to be, like, only about culture and kind of this is how we've done things. And the business aspect just really surprised me, and it made a lot of, like, logical sense.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, and I think this article, I think there's something to be said about the different experiences of just, like, there's the dorm, like, self-taught. I mean, there's 2 self-taught and 1 apprentice, but I think there's just something to be said about, like, where tattoo culture might be moving towards. Like, maybe there are ways we can rethink, like, what an apprenticeship could look like for tattoo artists, maybe less exploitative and maybe paying people.
Yeah.
Or are we, like, completely moving to, like, a more independent tattoo industry culture in general?
Totally.
Yeah. So I do appreciate, like, that the article kind of touches on all 3 of those, like, things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, was there anything else that like you didn't really get to put in print or haven't talked about already that you really wanted to touch on?
Yeah, again, I'm going to speak to Fisher because he's the one that I, like, directly talk to, but something he kind of touched on, which, like, totally... Oh, I guess there were two things. One, Philly has a very, very, very rich history of tattoo culture, which I didn't know. He said that Pennsylvania in general, like, because of the Susquehanna and sailors coming in, we have, like, a extremely deep tattoo culture, almost... like more than like probably most of the United States. There are probably a couple of major cities. You're thinking like New York. Yeah. But Philly has a deep, rich tattoo culture, and because of that, the culture is rich and exclusive and kind of on steroids. Like we have like tattooing is very much alive in Philly, I would say, and it has been for a really long time. I thought that was so interesting, like thinking about like going back to the 1900s to like where we are today, right? And then kind of like along those lines, Fisher talked about how tattoo styles, it's like fashion, like there are trend cycles. And if you can market a trend like how he's doing for that kind of graphic design, cyber sigilism.
Yeah. Very new.
Very
style
new.
Also.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like any sort of like microeconomics, like supply and demand, like he has been able to find, like he stays 1 to 2 months booked in advance. And this is a guy who graduated from college last year. Like, and only, like, he's been working out of his studio since, like, pretty much after he graduated. Like, this is a new artist. And he has... because he's perfected his craft and he's kind of monopolized like this niche, not completely, of course. It's Philly. There's a lot of tattoo artists out there, but like he was like, yeah, you know, I love the art. It was a balance of I love the art, but also like when you can kind of like stay with the trends, you can really like benefit yourself. And I don't think like, I think that was, like, very interesting, and it was kind of hard to include in the article because, you know, that was more specific to him. But, again, it goes back to the economics part. It was just very interesting. It's just tattoo artistry is very much a mesh of artistry and economics, and I don't really think I thought about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I have to ask, do you have any tattoos?
I don't.
No? None?
No, I don't. So, like, and actually it's very funny. So, like, my favorite tattoo style is, like, American traditionalism.
Whoa,
yeah.
Nice.
I like the sailor tattoos. I like the ones that say, like, mom in the heart. And I've had this tattoo idea for a while, but I also come from a family where it's like, if you get a tattoo, you better be able to pay for everything by yourself for the rest of your life. And it's like, okay, so maybe not tell them like an established adult, but it's like the Claudia symbol, right? But in American traditionalism and with like red in the heart and, you know, like those bright colors. And it would be like right here on my chest. Ooh. So it would be kind of like the two hands and the heart kind of in the middle. I've always thought about it.
That's cool.
I don't know. Again, I come from a family where tattoos are like a
taboo.
No way. Yeah. But yeah, but I do like the artistry is awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so cool.
American traditional is a very specific like style.
I love it.
Very iconic style.
It's totally iconic. Yeah. It's like I think of Amy Winehouse. I'm like, my
God. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's all I had for today, so.
See?
Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Reprint. You can find these stories and many more on our website at www.temple-news.com, and you can follow us on all socials at The Temple News, and I will see you for the next one.